Good morning, one and all, and welcome back to another episode of The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and joining us today, Wosny Lambre. Woz, how's it going?
Fantastic, man. I'm happy to finally be back on with the family here at The Damage Report.
We're very happy to have you here, very happy to have you to lend your perspective on some interesting topics we're gonna talk about, which my document is now loaded. So that's great news for me. I was like trying to load it in advance of this and I was like, well, this is gonna be an exciting impromptu ad-libbed show. But anyway, no, it's here. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about, including Florida's new standards for teaching Black history, which has some interesting takes on slavery. We're gonna talk about that. Charles Barkley decided to just get the whole right wing to utterly despise him. So that's gonna be fun. Nina Turner attacked in a very racist fashion by the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And I think we have to defend her here. And in just a moment, we're gonna be starting off with Donald Trump's latest threats against the special counsel. Always a good call before legal proceedings begin. But in anticipation of all that, please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already, and you can send us comments, tweets, super chats. We'll read some as we go. We also might give away a $100 Blue Apron gift card, which I technically can do and keep forgetting. So I'm gonna try to remember that for today's program and give you all the food you deserve. So with that said, why don't we start this thing off with this?
Is it something that concerns you of the people making sure that they don't go out of their right mind if something like that happens? Because I know what I'm thinking of could happen if that, for example, they do say Jack Smith says, okay, I'm going to put Donald Trump in jail.
I think it's a very dangerous thing to even talk about, because we do have a tremendously passionate group of voters. And I mean, maybe 100, 150. I've never seen anything like it. Much more passion than they had in 2020 and much more passion than they had in 2016. I think it would be very dangerous.
So you've probably seen at this point, sort of like the money quote from that, which is it would be very dangerous if Jack Smith, if the DOJ were to like follow the law or whatever. That would be dangerous. But I don't think that headline really gets across how bad what that tape is in terms of how threatening it is. Donald Trump was like specifically asked about whether we should be afraid of what crazy people might do, which teed him up with an opportunity to tell them not to do anything. And he decided, no, I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm just gonna speak positively about people's passion, which was just described to me as a possible prelude to violence. I'm now gonna spin as a good thing. They're more passionate than they were in 2016. They're more passionate than they were in 2020 when they stormed the Capitol and people died. That's all a good thing. It's super dangerous. Let's move on to another topic, I guess. So yes, he did make threats against Jack Smith there, but the threats are so much worse than the headline version of this, I think would lead you to believe. Woz, what do you think?
I honestly think he's kind of bluffing here. I think if he were really trying to use this as a tactic, he'd be telling Jack Smith and those folks behind closed doors, like, look, man, you don't want to do this. People might get hurt. I think he's going public with this as a way to maybe get the message out to people around Jack Smith, right? To be like, hey, man, Trump's going out and saying people are gonna act crazy. You might want to reel this thing back, or maybe people above Jack Smith's head who Trump hasn't been able to speak to about his case. Maybe he's trying to reach out to them because this seems ridiculous. Like he could get on the phone with Jack Smith and make this exact same threat. The idea that he's going public with it seems like a bluff, and it seems like he's desperate to get the word out there to anybody who might be listening. Please, write on my behalf. Burn the country down when I lose legitimately for the second time in a row.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I'm wondering right now.
But to be sure, he is making those appeals 100%.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, look, he does it in appearances on things like the Simon Conway show, which I've literally never heard of, but I have no doubt that like 20 million conservative Americans would literally storm another Capitol if whoever the hell the people are who host that told them to. It's a weird world we live in. And by the way, Trump is appearing on this Weird little show. Anyway, that's not what's important. What I'm curious about is how worried do you think we should be? Because he does this every time there's an update. He says, they're gonna arrest me, someone do something. Or he like directly threatens, for instance, Alvin Bragg, telling people that he's gonna be arrested, that people need to take our nation back. He'll post a photo of him with a baseball bat aimed at Alvin Bragg's head. Anytime there's a big development or there's charges, he does something like this. And I'm not going to say that has not sometimes led to violence. Obviously it has, and sometimes the violence is a little bit more abstract. But in these last couple of cases, it thankfully doesn't seem to have resulted in what he wanted. Like, when he had to turn himself in the last time and get his charges, there was a small group in New York, there was a small group at Mar-a-Lago that organized, but it was not some sort of absolutely massive gathering. They did not, storm DC or anything. So it doesn't mean that it won't happen the next time. And it only takes one crazy person with an arsenal of weapons to do a lot of damage. But like, should we start to feel a little bit less bad about these threats the more times it's demonstrated that although he obviously wants the violence, he can't necessarily get it?
Yeah, I think what ends up happening with Trump supporters is that they do a lot of peacocking. And so they're very loud, the people who really love him, or the people who we might assume would be willing to resort to violence in the case that he lost again, fair and square. And I think that's why our antennae are sort of raised every time he says something like this, because in our mind's eye, we can see that deeply disturbed, annoying, but fairly marginal, rabid Trump supporter, right? Like in my head, I think about these Trump supporters being the right-wing equivalent of the ladies that wore the vagina hats at the Women's March. Like, not everybody wore the vagina hats, but like, but we noticed the people who did. There was a lot of people at the march, but some people were just more boisterous in their, affectation than other people were. And I think Trump supporters make us feel a certain type of way, right? I just don't necessarily think that they have these huge numbers of people that are just gonna go out in droves like we seen, for instance, in 2020 after the George Floyd assassination, right? Like that was a legitimate popular uprising of a bunch of citizens spontaneously, going out to the street en masse and demonstrating for something that they thought just wasn't right. I just don't see a Trump loss again, driving that many of his supporters to the streets to do something stupid.
Yeah. Look, I think absent the coup, like I would have a much lower level. Like that is that's the prototypical like mass movement of psychopaths. And there have of course been other incidents of violence. There are people who shoot up Walmarts and send pipe bombs and stuff who very clearly are being specifically motivated by Donald Trump with Cesar Sayoc and all that. And of course there are people who are willing to break into Nancy Pelosi's house and bludgeon her husband's skull in. Yeah, I want us to get through a few more years without anything on the level of a January 6th, and then I'll feel much more comfortable. I will say that I don't know what will come of the most recent threats that we just played for you. In past cases, some of the organizations that track sort of online chatter of threats have seen that there have been an amplification of those sorts of things after Trump posts things like this, including threats of doing like a January 6th times 10 plus guns. One person, very creative, said that they wanted to use dump trucks to drop a few tons of gravel on 6 bridges in hopes of making them unusable to cause a serious hit to food and economic deliveries in and out of New York. Because like, you can't put them on trial if you ain't got food. And I think that that's really creative. I mean, I think first of all, these people definitely have the resources to get all that gravel, and you couldn't like easily clear that in an afternoon. And there's no food in New York to subsist on, and no other way to get food to New York than crossing the bridges. So it is a big threat, and I am worried about it. It's very much Bane stuff, and we're without a Batman. Anyway, we're gonna move on to other news. I just wanted to put that out there. Hopefully nothing will come of it, but he certainly hopes that something will. Okay, let's jump now to this. House Republicans are continuing their crusade against the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, saying that he has committed a dereliction of duty, which is not just a term that you throw around. It means something specific. That something specific just has nothing to do with secretaries of cabinet departments, but they're still using the term. And to be very clear, they have a long list of issues with him. They're saying that he is not enforcing laws at the border. We basically have an open border, and that's why so many people are crossing at record levels. Now, the issue with that is that that's not true. So we now know monthly illegal border crossings dropped to the lowest level in 2 years last month, falling to under 100,000 for the first time in that time period, according to government data released Tuesday. You can actually see the chart here. Yeah, that's a big drop, and that goes back multiple years. The thing is, you can be mad about what's going on at the border, either honestly or because it's performative, because you're a Republican. But like, if much less than half as many people are crossing the border as were a couple of months ago, and you don't act like 5% happier about that, then I start to really question whether you mean literally anything you say about what's going on at the border. When you're still saying that he should be literally impeached for a dereliction of duty, when they have drastically cut the number of people that are crossing the border illegally, which is what you say you want, then I question whether that's actually the goal. Woz, what do you make of this?
I mean, people on that side of the quote unquote argument, not having an intellectually honest discussion about what angers them. The bottom line is, John, they just will never see a Democratic Party presidency as legitimate. So it doesn't matter what Joe Biden does. And trust me, I've got plenty of critiques for the Biden administration, right? I think they've kind of stuck up the joint on a myriad of things that I happen to care about quite deeply. But it's just but that being said, if they went out and wiped out everybody's student debt, permanently, forever, tomorrow, or they went out and increased the amount that we pay out to seniors for Social Security, and they went out and did Medicare for all. If they went out and did all of these things that I love, I wouldn't turn around and say, but I still hate Joe Biden. Like, I would be like, oh, okay, they did the things that I care about. I'm gonna give them props for it. Or, by the way, if Donald Trump or some Republican did all of those same things that I just mentioned, I wouldn't pretend that they didn't happen just because a Republican did it. But these folks showed a long time ago how disingenuous they are about their critiques, that it doesn't matter what a Democratic president or Congress does. They're going to be against it and put their head in the sand, even when it's stuff that they want.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Have you considered the possibility that because that is how you evaluate, what's being done in the government and what you think about the government, that you're a weirdo? Have you considered that possibility? Because not a lot of people actually act like that. Like people who are like Republicans or really right wing, there's literally, I'm going to demonstrate another thing. No matter how good things get, you cannot give any credit whatsoever. And maybe there's some people who, like are progressives, but like really hate Biden, that also might not be willing to give him credit or whatever. We're in this weird, and there's Democrats, of course, that don't care what happens. They're gonna love Biden or Buttigieg or Kamala Harris or whoever it is. Whereas we're in this weird position, and it's what makes it weird, like the people watching this, that you would be watching this at all, where we just think you should like see what happens and update your thoughts accordingly. So,
Well, John, not to like cut you off, and we've seen this happen multiple times, right? I think the most notorious example recently was Kamala Harris with the vaccines, where she was like, well, a Trump vaccine, I would never touch. I wouldn't even think about taking that kind of thing. This is a rush product, blah, blah, blah. Like she said that on record.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
This is in the record, the public record. And then of course, inevitably she becomes vice president on Joe Biden's ticket, and these vaccines come out and she completely reverses course, right? Yeah. Like, so people have seen, our politicians do this too and just play politics with everything, 100%. And I think people follow that lead, unfortunately.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not saying that like every single change should affect everyone equally. The first one that we're starting off with, like the illegal border crossings, I'm specifically bringing this up to appeal to right wingers.
Yeah.
That's not like top of my list of like, oh my God, I got the numbers down. That's not the thing that like appeals to me. I am trying to like extend an olive branch to them. I understand you guys are highly xenophobic. This seems like a thing that's really important to you. Why are you not happier?
But John, we know this to be true, right? Mitch McConnell, he is the king of this. He opposes the infrastructure bill at every turn, does everything he can to sabotage this thing. The second that it passes, he goes to his constituents in Kentucky and is like, yeah, we got you money for a bunch of stuff. It's gonna be great. He did not vote for this. He tried to kill it. Yeah. He tried to kill it in the cradle, and he goes out to Kentucky and he says, isn't it great all the stuff I got for you guys? It's incredible what these people do.
Yeah, all this stuff that I tried as hard as I could to stop you from getting, but oh well, it failed, now you got it. Yeah, by the way, similarly for when the inflation numbers came out, great progress on fighting inflation. None of them are happy for that. Why is that? Here's another one, and this one, I think we can all agree that this is good news. I don't think you can spin this as bad for anyone. Do you know that the murder rate has been falling drastically for 2 years? So it went up, there was the pandemic and there was a lot of chaos and all that. So it had gone up. And that was like the dominant story for a couple months in the presidential race in 2020. Well, it has dropped almost all the way back down. Just this year, murders have fallen more than 12% in major cities. After having fallen slightly last year as well. The murder rate is still about 10% higher than it was back in 2019, but the trend is going in the right direction for literally months. And if the murder rate going up is a national news crisis for literally months, then obviously the murder rate going back down would also be huge news. Except that it's not, as Media Matters has well documented, it's mostly being ignored by the media. Just 17 mentions across all of cable news, and they're even including Newsmax as being cable news there for the declining homicide rate. Fox mentioned it 3 times. They mentioned the rise thousands of times. So is it any wonder that we are as tribal and partisan a country as we are when you only get bad news or good news, I guess, if it's coming from your side, but you never get a real picture of some things getting better, some things getting worse, what rate they're changing, and then deriving from reality an idea of what you think about the government, which seems like the only rational way to live, but virtually incompatible with the modern media makeup that we have. Any final thoughts, Woz?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad how this news sort of makes its way to our citizens. That kind of sucks. But I think another part of it, John, even if you did somehow get some heavy hitters to talk about the drop in crime and how we're inching back towards pre-pandemic levels of the most violent types of crimes, we wouldn't get any analysis as to why this would have happened, as to what the differences are, as to what we should be doing to keep it going in that direction, what we know about what works and what doesn't. We wouldn't get any of that anyway, right? It would just be people just regurgitating stats and no actual analysis about how our society is actually going.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing. It doesn't serve, regular people. It obviously serves someone or they wouldn't still be doing it, but not regular people. Now that said, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, there was a lot more dong in Congress yesterday than there typically is. We're gonna try to figure out why after this. Welcome everyone to the social break. Let's see what is going on out there. Metalhead says, I like that there is no swearing on Damage Report, but in the pre-show, there is swearing. I love the take. It's just so cut and dry the way that it's laid out. That's funny. Yes, we have to be creative with our swears on the full show. Brian Neal says, that's not the bottom of the barrel. They can go way lower, just watch. Oh, we're watching. Let's see, Donald Trump's 101 to 116 indictments, continuing tier 1 membership on YouTube, much appreciated. Ada became a tier 1 member, thank you so much for that, appreciate your support. Speaking of membership, by the way, coming up 30 minutes after the close of our show, which is at different time depending on what time zone you're in. We're gonna be doing our tier 3 members hangout as we do once a month. We're all gonna be getting together, just chit-chatting, seeing what's going on. We always have a lot of fun, so hopefully you can join us. Okay, Grandma Sunshine Dragon said in a super chat, so excited. Today is our monthly chat at Bowl 30. Bowl 30 in a day. Hope to see you there, John. Don't sign up for tier 3 unless you like fun, puff, puff, pass. That's a reference to the tier 3 hangout. I love that Grandma Sunshine Dragon says, hope to see you there. I better show up. Like, you're not obligated, but I think I'm supposed to be there. Anyway, Sayla Dagurin says, I'm not a fan of Kamala, but what she said was she wouldn't trust Trump's word on the vaccine. She'd trust Fauci and others in the medical community. I get what you're saying, and I appreciate that clarification. I still don't love what Harris said because it introduced, hey, have you considered that there could be a partisan position on whether you should take the vaccine? And I don't think we needed that. And it's not Trump's word. Trump has nothing to do with the vaccine at the end of the day. If he's saying it's ready to go and all the doctors are like, no, we did not say that, it's not ready to go, then sure, we shouldn't trust him. But it's not like he's moving blue fluid from one beaker to another. He's not doing it. He's not
he doesn't work at Johnson & Johnson, which is the vax that I took, by the way, John. I was scared for a few days there. I thought I was a goner for a few days there.
Yeah, I took that one, and then I was happy once I got some other boosters, I guess. But anyway, we lived. We
made it.
Yeah. Yoda says in a super chat, John, I missed the main show last night, but I was talking to Zeke. He made 2 S-tier gifts of you if you haven't seen them. I did see one, I didn't see the other. Says, but he told me to ask you about the 3mm defeater, a reference to a story that Anna told on the main show yesterday. Thank you for relaying that message. Mama Bear Dragon has been a member for 31 months on YouTube and says, it's my birthday. Born on 20th anniversary of moon landing, cool. Celebrating with a new tattoo, getting my Mama Bear Dragon tomorrow, I'm excited. That's awesome, what a way to celebrate the birthday. We are, I guess coincidentally enough, we'll be talking about the moon and the moon landing coming up a little bit, thanks to noted lover of space, Melania Trump, so that'll be fun. Maybe I Need a Building sent it in a super chat saying, OMG Woz, tell me why you randomly popped up in my dream last night. I was rolling a blunt and you bumped into me and spilled it in the grass, no cap. Weird dream.
That sounds like me, honestly, because anybody who knows me knows I'm one of the clumsiest people in the world. I'm constantly dropping stuff, spilling stuff, just my hand bumping into. It's just I'm so clumsy. So that's actually true to life. That could actually happen.
So everyone, if you dream of Woz, be careful what else is going on in the dream because it could end disastrously. We'll be right back. Okay, everyone, if you're just joining us now, please hit the like button. And if you are just starting to pay attention to what's going on in American politics, perhaps you were in a coma for a decade and you want to get an idea of the level of political discourse and the standards we have for our elected officials, we're going to describe those in this segment. Now, we're going to be starting off with somewhat good, but it's only about the most nonsensical thing that I think has ever been discussed in a congressional hearing, but we'll start off with this.
If the gentlelady from Georgia wanted to follow evidence, we should also take a look at hypothetically a case where sex trafficking charges against a 17-year-old girl potentially.
The gentlelady's time's expired.
That is AOC throwing fire in multiple directions. So directly, she's critiquing Marjorie Greene, the gentle lady from Georgia, who had just finished showing, I guess technically revenge porn of Hunter Biden live on TV in a congressional hearing where kids could be watching. But at the same time, and we will return to that, she's also burning, and it's not too subtle, Matt Gaetz right there, bringing up the investigation that had been made into him for alleged human trafficking as well. By the way, I don't know if you saw this last week, but the House Ethics Committee has resumed reaching out to witnesses in that probe. Now, that is not the same thing as the investigation beginning again. The DOJ has apparently decided they're not going to bring charges against him, which I will also point out is not the same thing as him being innocent. But the House Ethics Committee is saying that they're not bound by what the DOJ does, and they are going to be examining the same allegations they were looking into when they opened the investigation back in 2021. So, if you want to throw around accusations of human trafficking, in this case, it's someone who's actually in government, which seems relevant. Anyway, look, if this entire thing is hard to follow, it probably should be. We're not going to show you all of what Marjorie Greene had to say or show, but here's just a little bit.
To a foreign-based amateur online pornography platform. This is evidence of Hunter Biden making sex tapes. Excuse me, this is my time. Making pornography.
Should we be displaying this, Mr. Chairman?
So it was blurred out there, but that was just full-on nude photos of Hunter Biden, a woman, literally photos of them having sex. Now, I'm going to just briefly move beyond my level of expertise on the law. It is possible that that is not in any way illegal, but shouldn't it be? And maybe it is. Is that a reasonable question? Like, if I were to just get one of your laptops and find nude photos and just hold them up to the house, is that legal? I feel like someone should be looking into this. For now, though, you might wonder, why is she talking about this? I think a lot of people are wondering that. It's not really clear. It's not really clear why him making a sex tape is a crime, or even if it were a crime, why that's something that the House should be concerned with. Hunter Biden, I will remind Marjorie Greene once again, is not an elected official. He's not an appointed official. He serves no role in government whatsoever. He is a private citizen with troubles, certainly, struggles with drugs and all of that, deserving perhaps of empathy. And if he broke the law in any of these cases, feel free to be specific about what law he apparently broke. But she was just seemingly so affected by these nude photos that she saw that she felt like she had to show them to the class, and the class is the entire country. What do you think, Woz?
I'm at a loss for words, honestly. It's just a naked attempt, if you could pardon the pun, to try to embarrass the president. That's it. This is his son. This is the president's son. He bears his name, and he's done amateur porn in the past, and here's the proof of it. She's essentially trying to shame the Bidens publicly by airing this guy's dirty laundry. That's it. It's an obvious attempt to do that. And for me, the most disturbing part, John, was that she had her glasses like your 5th grade teacher, sort of on her nose as she was checking it out. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, she's really getting in there.
Yeah, she made the images, she printed them out. Why is she staring at them right then? Why is she gesturing to particular parts? She's clearly enjoying this so much. And I'm sure that the right is too. Lots of them are like, yeah, you got Joe Biden. How? I don't know. I guess it's embarrassing. And obviously, our side has never done anything embarrassing. The Trump kids have never done anything embarrassing or whatever. Look, this, as I alluded to in the intro, I think is not good for America that this is the level of standards for Republican elected officials. AOC touched on that topic.
Today also marked a new low when pornographic images were paraded in this hearing room. Chairman Comer, last October, you told Time magazine that you were not interested in the sordid details of Hunter Biden's life. You were quoted as saying, quote, "That's counter to a credible investigation," and I agree. Sadly, that is a reflection of how low some individuals here have been willing to go in their efforts to attack the president and his family. And frankly, I don't care who you are in this country. No one deserves that. It is abuse. It is abusive.
Now, contrast that statement from a congresswoman with this.
This is shocking. And this is actually the evidence that I believe the American people deserve to see, because when the American people can see this evidence, as uncomfortable as it was for me to show it on the Oversight Committee today, I believe that's how they can hold this government accountable.
She has no idea what words are coming out of it. What are you talking about? if they have this evidence of Hunter's hog, then they can hold the government accountable. He's not in the government. How do his balls have anything to do with any of this? Like, I think this is clear to thinking people, but I also, very briefly, Woz, and I'll let you jump in. I think that the fact that this is Hunter makes it more difficult for people to really understand what's happening here and to have the appropriate reaction, because it's Hunter and everything has been so ridiculous and spicy and all that. So here is like a direct parallel. If 3 years ago or 4 years ago, Katie Porter had gone on the House floor and she had printed out photos, nude photos of Ivanka Trump having sex with some guy that she had flown across the country or whatever, and then just said, see, Ivanka Trump, who is naked and having sex in this photo, human trafficked someone. So she probably broke the Mann Act or whatever. I'm not gonna demonstrate how that is. I'm just gonna say that it must be prostitution because I don't think that two people can consensually have sex. That is exactly what is being done here. It is non-consensual displaying of nude photographs. And look, there's obviously the component of she pretends that she's worried about kids being exposed to this stuff. Literally, kids could be seeing this stuff. Apparently, one of her emails included these photos. A kid could be getting those too or seeing them on a screen. She doesn't care about that, or the fact that this has got to be breaking some sorts of laws of breaking, people's private. You can't just show nude photos in public of people. But anyway, that I think is necessary to understand the severity of this. But Woz, what are your final thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to expect anything more from the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think as young of a Congress member, as junior of a Congress member as she is, I think she's kind of demonstrated the fabric of her character, and she's not a very quality person. That's just been what she's demonstrated throughout her tenure in Congress. So to expect anything else would be sort of ludicrous. And yeah, man, it's one of those things where I'm glad, like obviously we were able to blur it out. I think in my job in the NBA, actually through the years, I can think of like 3 times off the top of my head where NBA players' dongs became public. One of which was a guy, John, mistakenly, he was sending his junk on Snapchat. I guess he was sending it to a woman, and he just put it on his public freaking timeline, and everybody saw the freaking guy's junk. Like that was a thing that happened in the NBA. And thankfully I was able to avoid Hunter Biden's junk. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is kind of par for the course for her, man. This is what she does, and her constituents don't seem to mind it, and neither do her colleagues, obviously. I think you and I remember a time in Congress, even when Newt Gingrich was kind of running things for the Republicans, where there was like at least some level of decorum, even while they were chasing, Bill Clinton's penis around the Beltway. Yeah. This is just a whole new level, or low, if you will.
I hope again that it's the bottom of the barrel, but I fear deep down that it's not.
They gonna scrape more.
They'll keep scraping. They'll keep digging. Okay, we're gonna move on to another topic. Let's jump into this. I would have loved today to just ignore the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire altogether. I think most people like to do that, but today we can't, unfortunately, because they've launched a racist attack against one Senator Nina Turner. You see, Nina posted something on Twitter, which admittedly was her first mistake. Don't do that, don't post on Twitter, it's the worst. But what she posted was not the worst. It was simple. Insulin should be free, medicine should be free. So obviously this enraged a bunch of people because you can't just have a rational take on Twitter. So they responded, Nina Turner picking crops should be free. Dear God. And obviously a lot of people saw that. Are you surprised to find out that the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire pays Elon Musk $8 a month? So they were algorithmically boosted, and there's no hate speech on Twitter. I read that in an article once. But anyway, they decided that a prominent outspoken black woman in politics should be compared to a slave because she thinks that our healthcare system is fundamentally unjust. So they went on to say, insulin should be free is equally offensive as calling for someone to be compelled to pick crops. They are the same moral statement, and we should react to them with identical moral abhorrence. I'm not gonna do that. I think I'm gonna have different levels. She responded saying, since libertarians is trending because they decided to be racist over free insulin, it's a great time to talk about how a vial of insulin costs $98 in the US and just $10 to produce. Big Pharma should not be profiting off life-saving medicine. It should be free. I love, by the way, that despite the fact that she is being viciously attacked in a racist fashion, she stayed on the substance and advocated for people's interests, even in light of these attacks. Now, she did point out that they're racist and this attack is anti-black, period. In no way is advocating for free insulin compared to chattel slavery. But they go on to say, you shouldn't pick crops for free because you're black. You should pick crops as reparations for the rights you violated as a politician. That is their defense against accusations that what they did was racist. They said that you're racist, so your defense is you violated rights, so now you need to pick crops as, and they decided to go with the word reparations, to just really distance themselves from the whole race thing, and then just implied that that's not a racist thing to say. They could have picked any job she needs to do for free. They chose picking crops. Woz, what do you think? Are we being unfair to them?
No, I think we're being unfair to ourselves whenever we actually engage with people who self-describe themselves as libertarians. And I say that because John is like people on the left, like, or even if we want to call ourselves leftist as just, extremely anti-capital, anti-big business, anti-major power leaning people, right? Sometimes you'll go to a party and your beliefs will come up and you may not get laughed out of the room, but people will be like, God, I mean, Jesus, dude, like get a grip, right? Like you might get that sort of condescension at a party. Nobody hears libertarians talk about their actual belief and not think, oh my God, I never want to talk to this person again. Get this person out of my life. These are the worst people literally in the political discourse that we have. I'm talking about worse than right wingers, worse than everybody are these libertarian hacks who think that they themselves, yeah, in America, you do it yourself. And I do everything by myself. I erect bridges. I do everything by myself. I teach myself. Like everything is me. It's just these people are absurd. And the idea that they're doing this on Twitter, nameless, faceless behind some party account. It's not a guy who's using his own personal account to be like, yo, Nina Turner, go pick some cotton. He wouldn't dare. Like these people are weak.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think we should be giving these fools this much oxygen. They're clowns.
Yeah, and you would think that, I don't know, if I were them, I would probably want to stay out of this when the issue at hand is the fact that having no regulations whatsoever on this allows the price of this particular medicine to be absolutely jacked up out of anyone's sense of what makes any sense whatsoever, that results in people dying, and you can just go across the border to another country and it's a much more reasonable price. This is a demonstration of why regulation is so important. It literally is life and death stakes, but they still decided to jump in. By the way,
John, on the substance of it, I don't think Nina Turner was saying that no money should be exchanged in the procurement of insulin. What she was saying is that people who need it should not be coming out of pocket for it. That's just obviously true.
Yeah, they're still gonna be paid. It's not that we just bust down the door and steal the insulin. Right. We just require that they manufacture it in the same way for the same price as it's done in every other country in the world. And it will be paid for probably through a single payer healthcare system that many other countries have been able to manage quite well. Acting as if she's saying we're just gonna rob them of it. No, obviously not. Anyway, very briefly before we end this section, in January 2022, that same Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said, America isn't in debt to black people. If anything, it's the other way around. Dear God. They also said a few months earlier, racism is pretty much a non-issue in America. Libertarians suffer more oppression than black people. And I do think that if anyone is going to declare that racism is no longer an issue in America, it should be white libertarians from New Hampshire. I think we can all agree on that. Anyway, we're gonna take our second break of the hour, but when we come back, we got a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody. See what's going on out there. Ethan sent in a super chat saying, today is 11 years since the Aurora Theater tragedy. Dear God, has it been 11 years? That is insane. One which my friend was involved in. That's devastating. He makes music on SoundCloud under the name Anxious. It'd mean the world to him if you showed him some love there on a really rough day. It's AANXOUS. AANXOUS. Thank you, Ethan. Sorry for what happened to your friend in your community. Gabby says in a super chat, my dog just went over the Rainbow Bridge. She looked like your Abby. Oh my God, that's devastating too. I'm really sorry to hear that. Losing a dog is very sad as well. Man, today's a day of some pretty sad news. Sorry for everyone, going through it today. Long Beach Dragon member for 6 months says the House chamber must be one hell of a desert for MTG to be as thirsty as she is. Jesus, let's keep it out of that. Anyway, thank you for being here. Neil says, thank God Biden didn't place his kids in charge. Yeah, that seems like a relevant part of this. That he didn't immediately make his kids or his kids-in-law senior advisors. Remember when Jared Kushner was in charge of like everything in government, including the Israeli peace process? Hunter's not in charge of that stuff. Biden is literally doing what we just requested that Trump do. And it has made no difference whatsoever. Anyway, Cloud Dragon says in a super chat, John, my member milestone post disappeared somehow. I am so glad I found this community. I was a poli-sci major a million years ago. Thank you for giving me a safe place to stay in the fight. Thank you. Just trying to help a little bit in making spaces like that. I do appreciate you being here. I was a poli-sci major back in the day. Had a lot of fun with it. Okay, I think I'm gonna read just a couple of podcast reviews. I want to read some positive and some negative because I think that that's hilarious. There was one podcast review. I can't find the specific one, but I just thought it was amazing. It was a 1-star review, and they said, "I don't like that you talked about Joe Rogan." The person, by the way, did not like Joe Rogan. They just didn't want us to talk about Joe Rogan, and so they left a permanent 1-star review in the podcast, which is, of course, they're right. But I just feel like that was a long time ago. Have we mentioned Joe Rogan since then? It seems like a weird thing to lock in your eternal opinion on. But anyway, sorry that ruined it for you. Okay, let's see. Okay. Thank you. I love, by the way, when in these reviews, people call out guests on the show that they really like. I see some love for JR in a recent one, so that's awesome. Thank you. And by the way, I say this acknowledging that during the social break, you're literally not listening to the podcast. But if you ever do, a review on Apple Podcasts is always very helpful. Thank you. Okay, Maria Hall DK over on Twitch has been here for 36 months, says John dressed up for Woz, cute. Don't do that. Anyway, thank you. YCP Renewed says they could import food from overseas. I think that's a reference to New York City being blockaded by a couple trucks of gravel or whatever. I love the idea that would work. Like, man, these people really do. Like, this person spent a weekend running through the woods with his friends in a militia, and now he thinks I have the master plan to shut down New York's economy. It's weird that the coup didn't work. Anyway, Designer Dragon, been here for 20 months on Twitch, says, sounds like instead of a parliamentarian, they need HR. Pretty sure porn at work is a firing offense as sexual harassment. Yeah, imagine if I went around the studio holding up that same porn. Just a naked photo of Hunter Biden and just showed it off or whatever. I would understandably be in trouble, but she's gonna be perfectly fine. Anyway, with that said, we got more news coming. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's jump back into the news. The Board of Education of Florida approved new standards for covering how Black history will be taught in schools. And already I imagine there's a shiver running up your spine. You're wise to feel that because it's controversial is the word that's being used. We could probably come up with some other ones, and perhaps we will. The updated standards say students should learn that enslaved people, quote, developed skills, like on masterclass. That, quote, could be applied for their personal benefit. They can't leave. They can't get another job. They're slaves. If they try to leave, they will be beaten, possibly killed. Dear God. And we need to tell the state board of education these basic things. Anyway, it goes beyond that. They also say that in teaching about mob violence against Black residents, instructors should note, quote, acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans. Which, like on some level, perhaps makes sense. If you're teaching history, you want to teach the full breadth of history, you know? There were slave rebellions, by the way, that I think should be taught. I personally think they should be taught because it's a demonstration of how horrendous things were that there needed to be literal rebellions. But that obviously is not the intent here. The intent is to both sides violence against slaves. Literal slavery, mass rape, death, families being broken up is now gonna be both sides as, oh yeah, one time a slave master was killed and I'm supposed to expend empathy for that. Anyway, it goes on to say that elementary school children should, quote, recognize Rosa Parks and Thomas Jefferson as individuals who represent the United States. Sure, on some level, I suppose, although I would throw in the fact that one of them was an owner of slaves, but the fear amongst many educators is that this is designed to take the full breadth of history and reduce it to, hey, there's a person. And that is not fundamentally what history is about. The significance of the people and what they did, the good and the bad, that is what history is about. Or at least that is what history was about and will continue to be outside of Florida. Woz, what do you think?
As unconscionable as these attempts are to sort of dumb down our public by way of our children who are the future, I think ultimately this attempt would be futile. It's obviously written up by people who don't really have a firm grasp of our country's history and are just worried about their sensitive fifis ever being offended at any point, right? Like just the idea that a white person might ever feel like in the past there were white people who existed who did things that were not great. Like this is just a ridiculous level of sensitivity that I don't understand. But I think the best teachers, quality teachers, like, yeah, okay, yes, we will talk about slave violence against their masters. Like, yes, who the hell else were they committing violence against, right? Like, it's not as if they got to commit violence against, everyday freed citizens. That was punishable by death. Like this idea that slaves were going out and doing it. And again, if we do an actual accounting of all of the ravages of the institution of slavery, any kid, I don't care how old they are, they're gonna look at that ledger and be like, yeah, the enslavement part is the messed up part here. All of these provisions they want to add in, it's not going to put, it's literally lipstick on a pig, essentially. Like it's not going to make slavery look better. There's no way if you actually take a real accounting of the truths of this institution, there's no way to make it look anything less than horrible.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna try, Woz. It seems ridiculous. I don't see how it could possibly be successful.
Good luck.
Look, the issue is, for a lot of people, I think that school is the best chance for them to learn it. There's no reason why it should be the only place that you learn things like, but the world is what it is. And, we can't hope that they watch a good documentary or an HBO series with an accurate depiction of racial violence. Like, I don't know, they're hoping in Florida that this will defang, a proper accounting of what really happened. It would seem like slavery of all things doesn't need to be both sides, but I'm not even 100% sure exactly what their position is. So you have conservatives in Florida that are like, hey, but did you know that slavery wasn't actually that bad? Meanwhile, the libertarians in New Hampshire are like, it is literally the same as slavery if I can't charge $1,000 for insulin. Oh, wait, so is it literally the slavery that's not actually so bad? Which slavery is it literally? I'm confused. But anyway.
Yeah, and I do think, John, to be honest, it's not as if I think about what I learned about slavery in elementary, middle, and high school. It's not as if I got some detailed accounting of the institution. That's not even what happened. So, honestly, I don't feel too bad that they're trying to do this. Because again, it's not as if kids, especially in my generation, generation were coming out of school and having a very deep understanding about how, exploitation works and how racism and discrimination work in concert with that exploitation for actual money. I think that's the thing that gets lost in this. It's like they did slavery for money. Right, yeah. Like the reason why they did it was to get paid. I don't know that was actually even taught to us in school, where it's just like, here's this thing that gets us really rich. Here's this other thing, racism, that justifies it. Right, yeah. Which is the same thing that we do throughout every single generation. Like the way that we explain poverty in America, both black, white, Latino, Asian, whatever. Oh, those people, they don't deserve to live great lives with dignity like the rest of us. They're lazy, they're stupid, yeah. They're indigent, it's their culture, blah, 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 blah. Like we see these ideas get reinforced where, we have a very exploitative system, and then we have this thing that justifies it. We weren't even taught it that way in high school and middle school. It's almost as if slavery just appeared and racism just appeared as this magical thing, and it didn't have this actual utility of enriching some people. Like people got very rich off of all of this free labor.
100%.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm just like, look, man, if these people want to give them a watered down version of the hogwash they're giving us anyway, it's hard for me to get too riled up,
100%. No, I'm glad that you focused on that. Yeah, that this was not like, it wasn't like the slave masters desperately needed this help so they could survive the coming winter. No, they wanted to have more money. And by the way, doing any of these acts is utterly evil in any context, but like you guys did it for money in a time when, and look, this is gonna be the dumbest critique of slave masters ever. Like what? So you could have like a better effing candle or whatever, like a different horse. There wasn't even good stuff to buy, and you were so, God, I will never understand the rich. I will never understand why they feel they need to have that much money. You guys didn't have zippers, I don't think, back then. What were you accruing all of this wealth for? Anyway, we're gonna move on to our next topic because I think we're running low on time. I would love to get to people responding to that. Perhaps we'll use it in the future, but for now, we do need to move to one Charles Barkley. Let's jump into this.
I got 3 cases of Bud Light. Hey, and I want to say this. If you're gay, bless you. If you're transgender, bless you. And if you have a problem with that,
Charles Barkley not pulling any punches there. He was on stage at a bar encouraging people obviously to drink Bud Light and showing support for people who are currently being attacked legislatively in virtually every state in the country. So that's good. That's good. That's just his opinion. He's a public figure with a following. He can say what he wants. Or can he? Because it turns out that political position that he is holding is incorrect from the point of view of the right. And because he holds a politically incorrect position, he needs to be destroyed, possibly canceled, something they pretend that they're against until Charles Barkley says a thing. And then suddenly they start to attack him, as you can see in this clip.
The NBA season's over. So what's Charles Barkley up to?
I'm gonna buy some drinks for y'all. And I'm gonna buy Bud Light.
What happened to Sir Charles? The minute he signs with CNN, he turns into Don Lemon?
Oh, I get it. Don Lemon, who doesn't work there, but I guess he's the only other black person you can think of. So obviously Charles Barkley instantly becomes Don Lemon. What do you think?
I think Jesse Waters was trying to call Charles Barkley gay right there, which is just
oh my God,
ridiculous.
You're right. I focused on the racism, but you're probably right.
Yeah, but I will say this: Charles Barkley is one of the greatest broadcasters of my lifetime, and obviously, full disclosure, I don't really have similar politics to Charles, right? He's like a fairly conservative dude, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. When it comes to people with politics like me and John, like Charles Barkley is to the right of us by quite a distance. But what makes him such a great broadcaster is his, the effectiveness of his communication is just like, yo, man, like if you're trans, if you're gay, you have a right to live a life of dignity and respect and joy just like everybody else, and I got love for you. Like, I mean, and if you don't, then you can screw off. Like, that is just such a beautifully succinct and direct message, and it's what makes Chuck so effective at what he does and why he's so popular and why his Q rating will always be on the left and the right 20 million times higher than that empty suit with a haircut, Jesse Waters.
100%. It of course was not only Jesse Waters who had a problem with him. Mark Levin said Charles Barkley can go to hell. Let him drink all the Bud Light he wants. But hold up, let's pause there. But yeah, just let him. Like, you're saying that. But do you mean what you're saying? Yeah, he can drink Bud Light and you guys cannot. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? He goes on to say, I used to like this guy, not anymore. So they were saying that Charles Barkley was triggered by the boycotts. You guys have utterly changed your position on a sports figure because you don't like what he had to say about a beer. Is he the one being triggered? Is he the one doing a cancel culture? You guys seem like you want to cancel him because he said one thing that you considered politically incorrect. Again, is it the left that has a problem? It doesn't seem like it. Now it goes beyond, it cannot just be that he has a position I don't like, so screw him. There has to be dark forces in the background. Blaze TV podcast host Jason Whitlock suggested that somebody has told celebrities like Barkley to support LGBTQ rights to succeed. On his show, he reiterated the conspiracy theory, but added this: the Rothschilds, whoever's in control of the Federal Reserve, those people are paying influencers to promote their message. He specifically, the guy Royce White, who was on with him, said that a cabal was behind it. Are you getting it, everyone? Are you getting the anti-Semitic dog whistles, or do they need to amp them up a little bit more for you? Can Charles Barkley just come up with his own thought? Like, I feel like he can do that.
By the way, your point is the best one, John. Just let the guy drink Bud Light. It's literally, the founders wrote this in the Constitution: inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of horrible American beer. It's in there. The founders, the framers put it in there specifically for these moments, John.
Yeah, look, I will say I drink Bud Light because it's fine. It's fine, and it's not very expensive. It didn't used to be a political thing to drink Bud Light. Am I going to say that I don't get a special kick out of buying and drinking Bud Light? Kind of, I can be petty too. But they're the ones who made it political, I will remind you. All Bud Light did was send a promotional 6-pack of beer to someone who hadn't done anything wrong beyond merely existing amongst all of the different campaigns and ads they do. That's all they did. You guys made it a whole other political thing because you considered them to be politically incorrect. That's all the time we have for the first hour. Much more to come in the aftermath. We'll be back after this. Welcome to the Aftermath, everybody. John here, Woz as well. Woz, thank you again for sticking with us. It's been great.
I'm happy to be back, brother.
Glad to have you here. We got some fun stuff to talk about. We got one more serious story. We don't generally do much that's serious in the Aftermath, or if it is serious, it's generally not that super political. But there's like a little bit of good stuff being done in the Senate, and I didn't want to miss it. So we will talk about that, but we got some light stuff as well, don't worry. First though, I am gonna read a few of your comments. Let's see. Quaker Lady, member for 26 months, says, no offense to Brett, but the new stacked split screen literally places John above, superior to his guest. It really bothers me. That is interesting. Well, would it be okay if we swapped it? On top of me?
I think it's fine, John. You can top me any day. It's all good. I don't know, it was the Barkley segment. I just thought that joke.
What are people gonna make of that? Thanks. Oh my God, Woz is above me. Does it? Well, hold up. Wait. Let's stay on that for just a sec. Is this better? I'm fine with it. I don't care either way. But anyway, I do appreciate the feedback. Jokes aside, I appreciate the feedback, Quaker Lady. Thank you. Let's see. Marie, member for 6 months, says that's one of the few things Charles Barkley has said I agree with. I don't know any of Charles Barkley's opinions on anything other than that. That's the only thing I know of, actually. But like, so how would you generally categorize Charles Barkley as a public figure?
I think Chuck is just a rich guy who, generally loves people. But yeah, he wouldn't be like, yeah, tomorrow let's just make sure everybody has health care, or let's make corporations pay more in taxes, or I don't think those are his politics. He's just generally, I would say he's like pretty centrist kind of dude. He's from the South, so that means he's probably like at least pretty religious, not like, he's not like Pat Robertson or something, but he's just a rich guy, black guy from the South. And when when you become rich and you work your way towards something, a lot of those guys hold conservative viewpoints, but it's not conservatism like these people sort of have painted conservatism, where it's just like, oh, we want to burn homosexuals and trans people at the freaking stake. That's just like psychotic, lunatic stuff that happens on the right wing. Most people are just like, yeah, man, these folks should be able to live in society with dignity and not get beat up or not get denied jobs or housing or healthcare or any of the things that we, a lot of us get to enjoy and benefit from. It's like this stuff ain't even controversial, man. It's like, this is just normal.
I agree. Texadian, welcome to your membership, by the way. And I see the people who are like, no, side by side, and I get it, but the test does not involve side by side. I apologize. It's just a test, just testing things. Apologies. And with that, let's move to the news. Melania Trump has a new NFT. Which is a great idea because, as we all know, in 2023, everyone is still very much interested in NFTs. But this one is actually a little bit interesting in that I don't have any idea why she's releasing it. It's to commemorate the 54th anniversary of the United States moon landing. One of them involves the man on the moon photo that you might have seen right there. For some reason, that looks like an original iPod, but no, that's the NFT. And you can get it for $75, or you can just pause on that and take a screenshot. Either way, $75 or take a screenshot. But that comes with an embedded audio file that will be accessible to buyers after their purchase, which I guess will justify the price. There are two issues with this for Melania Trump. The first is the official issue, and that is that NASA does not approve of its photos being used in NFTs. They have said NASA is not approving any merchandising applications involving non-fungible tokens, as they are not consistent with the categories of products the agency has approved to merchandise. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's gonna be in legal trouble, but definitely ethically, they've been clear that they do not want these images used in NFTs. So that's the official problem, was. The other problem is, what? Why are you making one about the moon landing? What does that have to do with Melania Trump? I get that it's the anniversary. Every day is the anniversary of something, though. That doesn't mean you're obligated to put out an NFT. You're not an astronaut. Are you really into like space? I've never seen that before. Why is this the thing that she put out?
I don't know. My best guess, John, would be that there's so many grifters in and around Trump world that somebody came to her with this idea that like, yo, we could probably get a bunch of idiots to buy this, and you can get a decent check out of it, to just put your name on it, and let's just move on. There's no way she's some moon buff or, you know, or maybe she secretly thinks that Stanley Kubrick was trying to tell us that he filmed the moon landing in a Hollywood studio. Like there's just, I just have a hard time believing that's the case, man. And she probably just got approached by somebody with a business venture, and she said, all right, cool, man, put my name on it, give me a check, move on to my life.
I assume that's what it is. My guess would be that not only does she not have any particular interest in the moon, but she probably has no involvement whatsoever in the creation of these NFTs, would be my guess. Another reason to not value the NFT, it has nothing to do with her, it's not personal. So buying it isn't even a good demonstration of your attachment to Melania Trump. It has nothing to do with her. Can I also say, so this is the Moon Day or whatever. Tomorrow is many different holidays. National Junk Food Day. So I'm just gonna release a $75 NFT of me eating some nachos or something. Take a monkey to lunch day. It might sell $75 and you get an audio recording of me chewing on chips. Air Conditioning Appreciation Week is in effect right now. So these are all great opportunities to release NFTs that have nothing at all to do with you. It's just like that photo. Could we put up graphic one again? That photo is on the internet. You could have looked at it anytime you wanted for your entire life. You still have that option. It is 2023. Are we not past the Bored Ape stuff? Why would someone buy this? I have no doubt that she's gonna make thousands of dollars. Partially because it's a way to effectively give money to Donald Trump and his family that doesn't have to go through official channels. They do these sorts of things so that they can take bribes under the auspices of supposedly selling goods and services. But why would a legitimate person ever do this? I don't understand.
I can't. The NFT thing, I've interviewed people who had different NFT like ideas. I remember I interviewed a guy who they were gonna set up a vintage clothing spot in the metaverse, right? So like your avatar, if you wanted to get a vintage AC/DC tee or something, you could buy it from their shop. And I'm like, you know what? I could see people wanting to dress up their avatars, and I get it. Like you guys can sort of authenticate because you guys are an actual vintage, shop. In the real world, people can say these guys have actual taste. It might translate to the digital world, whatever. I would never buy it, but I could kind of, if I squint, I could see the utility, kind of, maybe, sort of, a little bit. This is just however many JPEGs that they're gonna drop of this not even cool rendering of the moonlit. Like I don't get it, man.
It is honestly, it is perfect. There is now a way that the rich can sell you literally nothing. And you are supposed to believe that not only is it worth it, but you would be making a bad financial decision to not give the rich money for nothing. That is all that this is.
It's an investment. It's gonna appreciate with value, just like real art, John.
Yeah, 100%. Like so many of the NFTs have. Exactly. I actually own it. Did you know that? I own that NFT. I don't know what is on the audio file though. Anyway, okay. I hope that the audio file is just Melania Trump trying to pronounce astronauts' names or something. Like I wouldn't pay $75 for that, but I would pay a little bit for that. Anyway, with that said, I want to move on to something more significant that perhaps will someday be turned into an NFT. Let's jump into this. A bipartisan group of US senators just this week introduced a bill once again to try to stop stock trading by federal officials, including, by the way, members of Congress. So Kirsten Gillibrand is a senator on the Democratic side. Josh Hawley on the Republican side working on this. So I guess we're gonna have to give Josh Hawley some credit. Anyway, they introduced the Ban Stock Trading Act, which would ban members of Congress, senior executive branch officials, and their immediate family members from holding or trading individual stocks, the most substantive bipartisan effort to date. And in announcing this, Gillibrand said, "Sunlight is the best disinfectant. It is critical that the American people know that their elected leaders are putting the public first, not looking for ways to line their own pockets. This bill is the most substantive bipartisan effort to date, and I'm gonna work hard alongside Senator Hawley to get it signed into law." Josh Hawley said politicians and civil servants shouldn't spend their time day trading and trying to make a profit at the expense of the American public, but that's exactly what so many are doing. That is 100% what so many are doing. We're actually going to give you some information about how successful they've been at it. But as weird as it is to give credit to Josh Hawley, I will say thanks to him if I'm able to catch up to him. The dude runs really fast. I do like what they're trying to do. A lot of people, including AOC, have been pushing for this for a number of years. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to invest. They could invest in mutual funds and those sorts of things, but they would not be able to buy individual stock that their private privileged information would allow them to either make decisions that personally benefit themselves or potentially affect the legislation that they pass or don't pass to benefit or not harm themselves. Woz, what do you think?
I mean, this is just the other side of the lobbying effort, right? Like obviously lobbyists and special interests pour money into their campaigns, and then therefore they're able to affect their legislation. This is no different. If they have stock holdings in individual companies and there's legislation that may affect the bottom line of said individual companies, hello, this is so obviously corrupt and ridiculous. And of course, people like the great former speaker Nancy Pelosi stepped way in front of this and said, "Oh no, we don't need these kind of rules, John. I just trust our members to do the right thing, to go against their best interests. We just trust them to do this on behalf of the American people and not themselves and their families and their bottom lines." Nancy Pelosi was one of the worst, and I'm sure you're gonna have this in your stats, John, but people have looked up the trading record of her freaking husband. I mean, my God, he's kicking Goldman Sachs ass on any day of the week. I wonder why that is.
He's just really, really good at investing. It's amazing that he's been able to succeed at the level that he has, considering that he would never talk about any of this stuff with his wife.
Right. I mean, his wife was one of the 5 most powerful people in government.
Exactly. I mean, look, they're not gonna do. Are you implying that they would violate ethics to personally enrich themselves to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars? No, of course not. They would forego all of that money so that they're not doing anything untoward. Anyway, here are the numbers. The senators said in a statement that 1 in 3 members of Congress whose median net worth, according to Open Secrets, was just over $1 million in 2020, compared with $120,000 for the median US household, traded stocks between 2019 and 2021. They noted that 1 in 7 lawmakers violated the Stock Act by not properly disclosing trades, while more than 3,700 transactions during the aforementioned 2-year period potentially posed conflicts of interest. I mean, you might all recall, oh my God, I'm blanking on one of their names, but Senator Loeffler and Owen Perdue, both of them trading massively on things that were obviously going to be affected by the pandemic after private meetings that were not privy to the public, or the public was not privy to. Maybe that could be added to that list. And by the way, overall, the stock portfolios of congressional lawmakers outperformed the S&P 500 by 17.5%. They're just really smart people. Why are you guys so jealous of them? They just do better research, I guess. They're definitely not using secret information. So anyway, I don't know if this will go anywhere. It is good that it has at least one Republican who signed on for it. It seems like the sort of thing that if you were to oppose it would look bad during an election, but we know that there are millions of dollars on the line. So it's entirely possible that they will still try to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that this will actually be passed. And even if it is, I bet you will be toothless as all hell and have no actual ways of enforcement and stuff like that. I could see this passing as just a paper bill, literally, and not having any fangs, because the idea that these folks will reverse course, a lot of these people's like, this is what I got into Congress for.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be a civil service, it was to enrich myself. So, man, I hope that they're able to get this done. I honestly do think it would be a step in the right direction of actually having an actual democracy. But time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be picked up in the House, but that's probably where it will die. I don't think there will be nearly enough Republicans. Why would Kevin McCarthy sign on to this? By the way, the Republicans criticized Pelosi for being against this back when she was in charge. And then now that they're in charge, guarantee that they are also against it for the same reason. Okay, we have one more story to get to. I'm gonna read a few comments. Penguin says she doesn't own the image. How can she sell it? That's a great point. That's a great point. Let's see, Dougie the Dragon says bleeding trees I would understand, but the moon landing, I thought she would fall under the umbrella of it's a fake moon landing. Potentially, you know what I'm gonna do? Just because I realized that I once again forgot. Dougie the Dragon, assuming you haven't already, you just got a Blue Apron gift card because I forgot for 80 minutes. But I did like your comment. And by the way, it's not a bad idea. Like if you were gonna actually try to capitalize on the fact that you're Melania Trump, then do NFTs of stuff that has to do with you. Do an NFT of you wearing
can't melt steel beams. Come on.
Do that. Do the bloody trees. Do you slapping Trump's hand away? Do you I don't really care jacket or whatever. Do the stuff that's actually uniquely you, and big fans of you might want to pay big bucks for that. But just like putting up like a picture of like a Pokemon and a picture of a ham sandwich, like those don't have anything to do with you. Anyway, okay. Finally, Pawn's Gambit says, have nobody realized yet that money laundering is easier using NFTs than real estate? No, I have definitely thought about that. Both NFTs as well as in some cases crowdfunding really does seem like it would be a great way to launder money. Like a lot of, I don't know, that's weird that doesn't get talked about, the possibility that through, like there's all these subscription services and it just seems like that would be a big place for money laundering. Anyway, probably nothing. Maybe we'll find out something from ProPublica someday. Okay, with that said, I want to do one of the pettiest stories that we've done in quite some time. Let's jump into this. Barbie is coming out this week. It's a huge week, both for those who are excited for the movie and the early word is that it's good, as well as all of those who are utterly enraged by it, despite obviously not having seen it yet. Some people are a weird mix of the two. They did the premiere, and did you know that Matt Gaetz went? For some reason, I don't understand why, but Matt Gaetz and his wife, Ginger, I guess, or Lucky, I don't know, and I don't particularly care. But they went and they dressed up for the occasion, and we will return to that, don't worry. But coming out of it, see, Ginger and Matt did see the movie, and that doesn't mean that they now support it. Ginger tweeted, thinking about watching Barbie? I'd recommend sticking to getting outfit inspiration and skipping the theater. Here's why. The Barbie I grew up with was a representation of limitless possibilities, embracing diverse careers and feminine empowerment. The 2023 Barbie movie unfortunately neglects to address any notion of faith or family, but you didn't say that was part of what you liked about it back in the day. So why does it matter that they left it out? And tries to normalize the idea that men and women can't collaborate positively. Yuck. Pros, Margot Robbie's performance, stunning costume, amazing soundtrack. That seems like literally all you need out of a Barbie movie, but okay. Cons, unfortunate portrayal of big dreams causing anxiety instead of inspiration. Disappointingly low T from Ken, and unfair treatment of pregnant Barbie Midge. I don't know anything about that. Maybe she has something there. But of course they're gonna get to, this is emasculating people because there's a movie that's not exclusively about like a white guy punching someone in the face. So clearly it's low T. Anyway, we're gonna get to why I actually care about this in a sec. But I know you're familiar, Woz, with all of the back and forth that's been online about the Barbie movie. What do you make of what you just saw?
I mean, this is actually, as far as unhinged conservative responses to culture products, this is actually like on the low side and moderate, honestly. And if you're making Matt Gaetz's wife your new Roger Ebert, God bless and Godspeed. Like if this is who you go to for movie reviews, good luck with that. But like honestly, I read this and it's pretty tepid, and people seem to be really excited about the movie, like themed premiere parties, and everybody's wearing pink, and people are having fun with it, man. Let people enjoy themselves and have fun with a cultural moment, because let's face it, it's a lot less annoying than my fellow black folks who showed up to the Black Panther premiere in kente cloth. I mean, that was more annoying to me and abhorrent to me, John, than any of this Barbie stuff, I promise you. And Ashley agrees.
If it makes you feel better, the reaction from a lot of right wingers has been similar to both events. They are not happy about it. Did you know that Wakanda doesn't actually exist? I just need to point that out again. Anyway, so look, they're performatively upset because there was a map in the background, or because a woman is starring in a movie. Let's just be real about it. Like, Ryan Gosling isn't the star, so they have to freak out about it. Like that's what it is. And that's actually why I want to talk about this. It's not that Ginger or Lucky Gaetz or whatever her name is doesn't like the movie. I don't particularly care about that. I plan on seeing it because my wife is excited about it. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it wouldn't. That's generally how I approach all movies. But it's that first photo that we showed you. So if we can bring that back up, it's Matt Gaetz and his wife at the premiere. And so what they've done is they've dressed inspired by Barbie. That's what pretty much everybody who went to the premiere seemed to do. They dressed inspired by Barbie. But I feel the need to critique this. Or more importantly, an expert on Twitter will critique it, because what you have from the right and what you got even from Matt Gaetz's wife in that is constant fear mongering about the state of men. Are men actual men, or are they being undercut in some way? Are they being minimized? Are they being mocked? Are they being humiliated? Are they being made to have low T? Or is their sperm count down? Should they be fearful constantly of not being good enough? And the right over the last decades has not missed an opportunity to take anything changing about men as an example of how men are now ruined and they aren't real men. But the interesting thing is, the things they freak out about in one moment are totally normalized by them later on. And I want to talk about clothing here, because you do hear a lot about clothing in the modern era. I mean, people freaking out about the fact that like a drag queen might wear a dress or something you're supposed to freak out about. But the thing is, if you've been around for a little while, you might remember some past battles that were done over men's fashion and men and all of that. And when you look at that photo of Matt Gaetz, he is demonstrating the normalization of things that a past Bill O'Reilly would have demonized. And I'm not the one who needs to point this out. Derek Guy at Die Workwear on Twitter, who does like critiques of fashion and stuff, did a great thread about this. Like that specifically, Matt Gaetz is wearing incredibly skinny jeans there. Now, there's also an issue that he needs to get his jacket tailored. It's an absolute horror show. But those skinny jeans were mocked endlessly and attacked by the right. Like, some people might be young, they may not know that. But the idea of the metrosexual was a culture war for literally years in America. The idea that you would wear like tight jeans was the battleground for masculinity. And yet he's just wearing them there. And not just him, by the way. Derek Guy also points out Matt Walsh constantly also wearing skinny jeans. Matt Walsh 100% would have been demonizing those had he had a show 15 years ago. But now all of that stuff that was supposed to terrify us about the future of men, that they might like trim their beard, that they might wear moisturizer, that they might wear tight jeans or whatever, all of it was demonized. And then we said this is just like natural evolution. Years go by, and now they're all doing the same thing. And I don't point that out to defend skinny jeans. I point that out to just remind people that the stuff they're trying to freak you out about the state of men now, that too shall be normalized, and they'll move on to something else. That's just the way life, society, culture, and indeed fashion work. I apologize that this is.
No, I love the passion for this, and also you taught me something because I didn't know about the moisturizer piece. You telling me these people said it was manly to be ashy? Like,
it's effeminate. Yeah.
As a black man, being ashy it's just not a choice. Like, you will be disowned and disgraced within the community if you don't moisturize. Like, ash is just nasty. A lot of times I look between my thumbs to just to make sure that is you can't see any white there, let alone the knees and the elbows, John. You know, moisturizing and getting facials and all of that. We gotta stay moisturized. You can't just be out here cracking skin on a daily basis as a black person is unacceptable.
That's a good point, and I think we're gonna end on that point. So stick that in your skinny jeans, Matt Gaetz, and smoke it. Anyway, Woz, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. And I just want to say before I bounce, 3 years ago today, we lost our brother Michael Brooks, one of my closest friends, one of the biggest guys in the fight. Yeah. Love this guy to this day. I think about him all the time. Rest in peace, my brother Michael Brooks, and shout out to his family.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I can't believe that it's been 3 years. It's absolutely crazy. A massive loss to America. Okay, thank you. Have a good one. For all of you out there, we've got the member hangout coming up in just 34 minutes. We'll be posting for that. So if you're a tier 3 member, you can hang out. If you'd like to become a member or upgrade your membership, that's also an option too. We're gonna be talking about a bunch of different stuff, having fun. Appreciate you joining us. Go vote in the Community Garbage Person of the Week poll. Brett's gonna be joining me tomorrow to break that down. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.